All right, I know people are still making their way in, but I am going to just gently get us started so that we can, if we do well at the front end, then we will be more likely to finish on time at the back end. So, welcome everyone. I officially call the 2025 City Church Annual Meeting to order and welcome you all in. People are still making their way in. I am super excited that you're here this morning. First of all, thank you for being present with us. There is a sense of annual meetings are kind of one of those things you do to check the box, and you do to kind of say, oh, all right, we got to vote on a few things, we've got to hear the updates, maybe I have a question that has been gnawing at me, so I really want to be present for that. But I would encourage you to shift your thinking this morning and recognize this is actually a time of doing the business of family. This is a time of coming together to say, how is it that City Church is engaging in the community and the ministry and the mission we're called to? And pretty much everything this morning has been ordered around this idea of how do we exist in our community? How is it that we are called to be in the world that we are in? So welcome this morning. To that end, and if you've been around for more than 11 months and 300-ish days, then you've probably seen me do this before. But I am going to light a candle. Nothing spooky or weird about this. It's just a reminder to myself and to each of us that we are gathered today in the presence of the Holy Spirit through the person of Jesus. So this candle is going to be burning throughout the meeting, just as a reminder that this is not just business as usual. This is an act of worship for us, and this is a time of presence with Jesus. So I'm going to read a prayer this morning, because it feels, and I've read this before, but it feels very appropriate to where we are and who we are. So if you'll join me in prayer. Lord, as we are gathered here, uniquely in all of history, we particular place in this singular time and with these people, accomplish your purposes among us, O God. Tune our hearts to the voice of your Spirit. Wake us to be present to you and to one another in these hours that we are given. For it is you, O Lord, who have so gathered us from various places, and you alone know our hearts and our needs. Let us prize these moments and care for one another deeply, for each of us and our relationships to one another are precious and fleeting. Amen. So with that, we will step into the business of the morning. You know, I did not grab the clicker. Amy, do you have that? Thank you. So you can see here kind of where we're going for the morning. I'm not going to walk through the whole thing in advance because we're going to walk through it in the next hour and 15 minutes together. So take a snapshot of that in your mind, say, okay, I know where we're going, and we're off. The first thing we need to do is to approve the meeting minutes from our 2024 annual meeting. Those are located on page 1 of your packet. Does everyone have a packet this morning? Or need one? If you need one, raise your hands and someone will bring one to you. And these are distributed digitally as well as paper copies, so grab what you need there. So page 1 of your packet are the minutes from last year's meeting, October 27th. The motion is to approve the minutes of the October 2024 City Church Annual Meeting. Can I have a second? Second, Elliot Warden. Any discussion, and by way of reminder, this is how the motions and votes will run this morning, is I will present a motion, I'll ask for a second, and then there will be time to discuss or ask questions. Okay, so if somebody seconds it, don't feel like I missed my chance. So are there any discussions on the minutes? All right. So all in favor of approving the minutes as presented for October 27, 2024? Say aye by voice vote. All opposed, say nay. All right. The ayes have it. The motion carries. At this point, this is one of the most fun things, and if you've been with us for a few years, in the last couple of years, if you've looked on this page, it's on page 2 in the booklet with our new members. In the last few years, we have seen, because of a lot of transition and just a lot of things happening in our church community, that often we see families who are moving, jobs have called and careers have called people away, people have found new homes to worship. This year, I am super excited that we are actually welcoming 10 new members to our City Church family. Yes, amen and amen. So I'm going to read through those names. You see the pictures up there. I'm just going to have you, if you're here today, I just want you to briefly stand. It's going to be really short. You're not going to have to say anything. Diane Brown, Tom Brown, Zach Castor, Jane Kemper, Maddie Clune, Jared Sells, Jenna Sells, Betsy Smith, Summer Yared, and Kyle Yared. Welcome. Welcome, welcome. These have all been through the whole process of membership. Amy's talked about that. They have been approved by the board and invited in, and we are so excited to have you all in that sense of being with our City Church family. So we're grateful to have you here. So we're going to move right along here. And the reason I'm kind of pushing the front end is, again, so we have a little more time in the back end. So the one vote we have today is regarding the City Church Board. So this year we are welcoming back 3 board members. We elect people to 2-year terms. Cindy Anderson, Rachel Stapleton, and myself are finishing a year of our 2-year terms. I was going to say the first year, but it's not the first year for any of us. But a year of our 2-year terms, so we have a year left, so we will all be returning. I was going to have you guys stand, but I don't see Cindy in. Oh, there's Cindy. Cindy can wave, and Rachel can wave, but Rachel's taking minutes for us. Thank you, Rachel. So she's got a laptop balanced on her lap and stuff, so I won't make her stand up. So we are excited to be back for this next year of our terms and to continue to see and support City Church's growth. We also have 3 people who are at the end of their 2-year terms. All 3 of them are standing for re-election to a new 2-year term, and that's Jana Alexander, Mark Gorham, and Kevin Montgomery, whom, ironically, none of them could make it this morning. So if you vote no, they'll never know. So you should have a ballot when you came in, and you should have gotten a ballot and been signed off, or have already voted if you voted earlier in absentee ballots. If you don't, make sure you wave your hand. Megan will bring a ballot to you. And the way this works is I'm sorry, I almost forgot. We are also electing one new board member this year who we are super excited about. I've had wonderful conversations. We have had a good opportunity to really think about the roles and what it means to be a part of the City Church Board together. And Phil Burke has said yes, he would be willing to stand for election. So Phil is our new incoming board member pending today's vote. Sorry, I forgot to mention that. If you don't know any of these board members, reach out, get to know them. I know a lot of times the board is behind the scenes, and it's kind of like this mysterious group that meets Monday nights to really late or early hours of the morning and crafts things for the church. But really, we love to go out for coffee. We'd love to have a phone conversation. Get to know us a little bit. It's a lot of fun. So the way this works is if you are voting yes for a candidate, mark your X in the box or check it or fill it in, whatever it is. If you are voting no for a candidate, just leave it blank, okay? And we will collect those ballots from you, so go ahead and fill those out, and our ushers are going to collect ballots now. It's Megan and Mary Crocco are coming up to do those. If you have not had a chance to read the bios, it's a little late now to influence your voting, but I would encourage you to read those, see the pictures, get to know these folks, and move forward with that. All right. So as that's happening, we'll give time for that, and we will hear the results of the election a little bit later. But at this point, I would like to welcome our senior pastor, Amy Roll, who's going to come and talk to us about the mission objectives of City Church. These are things that we voted in last year and agreed this is the direction the church is going, and now we'll have an opportunity to look at the year ahead. So Amy, why don't you come forward? Yes. All right, I'm just going to put Jesus back here.
Okay. So glad you are here. Which way do I go? I'm too short. Hi. I know we need a high top table that's my size. Okay. I do want you to look in your packet, pages 10 and 11, eventually, for what our objectives will be this year. But first, I just want to look back and say thank you to God and thank you to you all for your work here. When I think about this past year, and many of you have been asking, and so I just want to give you a couple snapshots of where things are right now, because I feel like a lot of you are asking about this. And hear me, this is not like, this is beyond the stories of actual people's lives and growth, okay? Which is what really, really excites us. But many of you are asking about some of these things, so I want you to see what's going on here. And I'm just flabbergasted because how things look in PowerPoint is not how they look in Proclaim. And so it's interesting. It's really interesting. And we are just modeling the imperfection for you. So there you go. So I'm missing a couple of things there. I can see ministry objectives, encouraging signs of life and growth. And I don't know why you can't see that, but that's there. Okay, so if you look at just worship attendance on a Sunday morning in this room, and this is on average, because as you will see, this fluctuates depending upon what's happening in the world and the weather and yada yada. So 11% increase from a year ago on average on a Sunday morning in the worship service. Many of you have asked about that. We took us a while to figure out reliable numbers because we want to be reliable, but there you go. 13% in overall total programs. That would be what's happening in City Kids, Velocity, Sunday morning communities within the last year. And not only 13%, but 22% increase in City Kids ministry from a year ago, which is really encouraging. And at first I was like, wait, what is the math there? And it is true. You can have one adult with like 3 kids, so it does kind of throw us off here. But it's wonderful. We'll take all the kids we can get. Membership, you saw this on page 2, but one thing to highlight, if you took this annual meeting packet, and which I did, and compared year to year for the last few years, you would see that not only are there 10 new people, but that this is the first time our additions are greater than our reductions since 2019. So that's very exciting. Who said yay? Yes, very exciting, yes. Finances, we're going to talk more about later, but we have had our second surplus thanks to your generosity since 2020 and 2 years in a row. That's incredibly encouraging. In terms of service, again, we could take a number of engagement levels, but let's just say service in City Kids. Half the team is new this year, and that is so encouraging. Yes, they're serving right now. Half of them are here, but downstairs serving. So bless them. So many of you have asked about that. I just want to say that just as we think about this next year and the trajectory of where we're going. So, okay, what I want to do before I say this is what we're doing this year is try to remember back a 3-year trajectory. As I'm starting my 3rd year here in this role, in 2023, August, we'd been through a lot of leadership transition. We had our interim pastor here, Rich, for 2 years, and stabilizing things. And we were just like, hey, let's just press in. I think I started August 1, and these were due like 3 weeks later. So it was like, let's just be here and try to figure this out and build some teams, because that's going to be key for us. And then love neighbors, strengthen relationships. Last year, I encouraged us to press on in these ways. You might remember these little icons. Loving neighbors is that blue one, investing in next gen, and becoming like Jesus. And I want you to read pages 7 and 9 in your packet. I won't take the time now because I don't have the time, but you all did that, and in beautiful ways and very encouraging ways. And it just, every one of those was very encouraging. I want to highlight, though, one, the loving neighbors, because it does impact this year. The block parties, this was our second year doing them. And a year ago, when we started them, I think all of us were kind of surprised at the level of engagement from the community, both in the number of people who came, but then in the ways in which they interacted with us. And last year, our attendance was like 200, 225, 325. So it kind of was a steady building grow, which was great. And honestly, this summer when we started these, I would say I wasn't the only one who was like, is this going to continue, or did this like run its course? Like, is this like, was that just a thing last summer, or is this still a thing? Are people still open to this? And our first one, we had 450 people at approximately. It's really hard to count this number, but based on the activity and the sales for food trucks and stuff. And that was shocking for us, of like, wow, people actually still want to engage with churches. I think that, often we feel like people don't want to engage with churches, and for good reason. But what is important to me about this is not the numbers, because that can fluctuate based on weather and all of that. It is the goodwill, the general neighborhood goodwill, and then trust that we are building with people in the community. The September block party was particularly powerful because the Annunciation Church and school shooting had just happened, and because in part, I think, of how we responded as a community, people were like walking to our grounds and like, can we just donate money like to what you guys are doing, because this is great. So I'm just saying there's a lot of trust being built there. And some of those folks came to our workshop that we did for caring for kids in tragedy. They had never set foot in this church. They brought their coworkers. Like, this is a high trust thing they're doing. So we see signs of that. And what I want to say is, this year, as we are poised for, we were already, I think, in these block parties feeling like, man, we should be loving our neighbors more, like taking that seriously, where we are located, if we really believe God has placed us here. We were already poised for that, and then the Annunciation Church and school shooting happened, and the community responded really well to how we responded in that moment. We did the service of prayer and lament. We did a Sunday morning that was about that. We did a workshop on how do you talk to your kids about this. That was very well received. If you did not see that, it is available live stream, and those 3 women absolutely rocked it. So proud of every one of them. Liz Warden, Rachel Ootman, Erin Mackay, they're all here. And yes, it was again a moment where people who had never set foot in City Church came to that event and were like, wow, I cannot believe there is a church like this. You care, and you're actually evidence-based, and you're thoughtful, and this is incredible. So what I want to say is, we were, as a staff, like, the staff is really new, so like one of us, me and Shelley had done this process last year. Everybody else was new. So we were already having conversations about what should we be focusing on this year. And we had said, press in, press on, and we really felt like we think God is calling us to press out, to actually embody Jesus' love. We were already seeing that in the block parties, and then after that event and the responsiveness of people, we were like, people actually want to engage with churches. They are eager. So what if we took that a step further and just focused on loving neighbors this year? So what I want to say is our focus for these objectives is embodying Jesus' love. Last year, we tried to keep the visual template so it'd ring little bells in your head, like, yes, we're still doing this. Embodying Jesus' love, loving neighbors, basically, but it's in 3 ways, and I'm going to talk about those now: locally, long-term, and here. So, and all 3 are important. They're not really hierarchical, but we really are thinking about this as if we are the body of Christ, we need to embody his love to those who we come in contact with, because his love is compelling, it's powerful, but people need to experience it, not just hear about it. They need to experience it in their everyday lives, in how we're meeting their needs. So we're going to dig in this year in those 3 ways. It's not that other areas aren't important. It's just that you can't focus on everything or you won't get it done. So this year we're going to press more into embodying Jesus' love. Let me just start quickly locally. These are in your packet, pages 10 and 11, and I don't want to repeat what's written. So you can, I will just say the main goal and then try to say a little bit to help you think about it, then you can ask questions. So the first thing is locally, where we're saying, how do we actually, if we believe God has called us here in this neighborhood, how will our neighbors experience the love of God? How can we embody that to them? So we're going to look for ways that we can meet the needs of our community when we have the resources to do so, and when our missional values align. So for example, we are going to host 5 events for our community, the Southwest Minneapolis community, over the next year, not including Bach parties. So our workshop in Caring for Kids was one of them, but other ways of tangibly saying, we are here for you, community. And we don't want to wait. This is the balance, and you'll see the local and long-term. The balance is we don't want to wait till we have a perfect strategic plan before we start helping, because I think one of the lessons of the Annunciation experience was timeliness matters. Even if you don't do it perfectly, just do it and gather people. It's time. So that's what we are going to do in this, and we've set a goal of 5. And what I want to encourage you in is, like, when you hear about those in the announcements or when you see the event or when you come, I want to encourage you to greet someone warmly. I did see people, it killed me at our block parties. I did see faces who were strangers, who were sitting alone, nobody talking to them, and it's like, oh man, they've come to this event. Like, they're hungry for something. People are hurting. And in my experience, when I would chat with people, sometimes you would get an avalanche of what's underneath there. Now, that's in part because of my role. You probably won't get an avalanche, but you can be praying for people, and you can, and sometimes you just connect people. So I want to encourage you, let's not just do these events, but let's actually prayerfully receive these people and pray for them. And, some of the people that we chat with then I see on Sundays, and God is at work in their lives. So let me go on to the next one. Here's where Proclaim and PowerPoint are not talking to each other. But again, I'm happy to model imperfection for you. The second one, so we not only want to do things now, we want to think about, okay, we don't want to just be at the whim and have to be reactive. How can we have some sort of strategy for how we can do this in an ongoing way? So these are dual tracks. While we're trying to meet needs this year, we're also going to be very much strategizing, listening, discerning, praying, getting some data and information, asking your input of how can we long-term, not just randomly, but in an ongoing way, meet needs of this community. And that can include, outside group rental, that can include reevaluating some partnerships. But what can we uniquely contribute to? Like, what is missing, and what are the gifts that you have that we can contribute to this community? What kind of impact can we make? So what your part is to ask how God may want to use you to embody God's love. And maybe there is a ministry you are really excited about. Maybe there are gifts you have. Whether that evolves into a program or not, I don't know. We'll see. It could be. That's part of the discerning over the next year. Any other questions? I don't want to drag it out, but I don't want to preempt you. Jack.
Hold on, Jack.
You always say something profound, Jack.
Well, just being a leadership person, maybe been around doing events and activities, engaging people as part of my career, is just as we think about events, to figure out a way how we always talked about it before, during, and after an event. What do you do before? What do you do during? Like you mentioned some things, talking to people. And then after, we often leave out, we become event-based, and we don't always know the impact we're having. And intentionally knowing what impact we're trying to have beforehand helps. So just a thought to implant in the people involved with those activities. It's easy to, hey, we did 5 events.
Right.
Well, what happened as a result of that?
Right.
Did we meet the things that we wanted to do, and what did we learn from it, and how do we move forward with that? So that's just a slight caution when we write goals in terms of activities and events, and we don't think about impact.
It's a great point, because we don't want to just do events and check them off. We want to do them for this particular purpose. And that's why how many people come isn't the best judge of what's happening. It's the conversations you have with the people who are like, oh, wow, I didn't know this church existed and you're normal. Like, maybe I will come on Sunday. That's what we're looking for. So that's a great point. Anything else? Otherwise, I'm going to move us on. Elena?
Do we collect the email addresses from those that are attending the events? Like, I know there's software that can follow up with somebody via email.
It's a good question.
Yeah.
We have taken a posture, especially in the beginning of building relationship with people, to not appear as the church that wants something from you. You want your money, I want your data, I want your, right? We just want to be generous and hospitable. And we are here for you, and we make that clear. And if you want follow-up, you can come to us. And at our welcome table, we've made that clear. And we did a little bit more of that of, hey, just tell us who you are, like demographic, do you have kids? Like, we did a little bit of that, and then a place for us to reach them if they needed help. But I feel like it's pretty tough soil here in Minneapolis, and we're trying to build trust. And so we have intentionally not been overly aggressive in that. That's the posture we've taken.
Yeah.
I think it's worked. I think people see that, but I understand. Now, Shelley's done some things with like the Christmas Family Fest and other things where you can fill out all of that information and drop it in a thing and get a gift card to wherever, and then you can hear about our VBS and our whatever else, and then people are opting in rather than it being forced on them.
Yeah.
And I like the opt-in in terms of when it's trust building.
Right. Yeah. I do too. I think that's great. I wonder if people would be actually wanting somebody to contact them, and they might not voice that like with a physical interaction. Right. They might be more comfortable to say like, I didn't see the welcome table. I was like chasing children, but maybe like for future block parties, we think about, I don't know what the sign-up sheet looks like, so maybe this is already what it looks like, where you have an optional email. Yes. Would you like a pastor to contact you, yes or no? Okay. Yeah. Okay.
And that's why I want a little bit, I don't want to say better merch, but our merch is only t-shirts, and it was really cold on some of those. So I was freezing wearing my t-shirt because we told people, hey, anybody wearing a t-shirt would be glad to pray with you, chat with you if you have anything you need. So we will get better at that. But we have intentionally had a different posture there.
Yeah, because somebody could choose to like not open our newsletter and not be ready, and that's fine. But at least then they have the information. If, say, they sign up and it's like connected to the newsletter in some way, and they can learn about the church in a very, just
And that's in part why our website's really important, because most people are visiting our church before they walk in the door a number of times through that website.
Yeah.
So others, I want to move us on without truncating. Does this make sense to you, and are you excited to embody Jesus' love? Okay. I don't know if that's official, but I'm passing it to you.
No, it's not official, but it will be soon.
Okay.
That's the next thing. So we'll find out how excited you are, because each year we do vote these to become the official mandate that shapes Amy's time and work and the time of our staff and how we are committing as a body. So this is an official motion to accept the 2025-26 ministry objectives for City Church. So I'd like a second for that. Second, man, Elliot's fast this year.
He is.
He's like on it.
He's got kids downstairs.
So one last opportunity for any questions about the ministry objectives or conversation. We've had some really good interaction and dialogue so far. Anyone have any last minute questions they want to make sure they get in for us? All right. Hearing no questions, we'll move to a voice vote. All in favor of accepting the 25-26 ministry objectives as presented in the annual packet, say aye. And all opposed, nay? All right, the motion carries, and those become our North Star for the next year. So we will be aiming that direction. Thank you, Amy, and to the staff, and to a bunch of conversations that have happened to bring this about. It's actually, what gets presented is the distillation of literally hours of conversation and work with the board and the staff and community groups and stuff. So thank you for doing that. So with that, we are now going to transition into the really fun part of the day, and that is our annual budget stuff. I need to move this forward a little bit. All right. So we're going to talk money for a bit. And this is on page 2021 of your packet. We're going to start on page 20 of your packet. And this is really a review of where we have come from over the last year. So I'm just going to highlight a couple of things, leave a little bit of time for questions, and then we're going to move into the budget that we're proposing for the next year. So we're going to start with what we're closing out now. I will say it notes in the packet as well as on the slides when I get there in a second that this is preliminary. These were all put together before our final accounting was done and our final audit. We get an audit every year. That audit has been completed, so if you want the final numbers, I have a few of those printed out. See me afterwards. I think I've got 3 or 4 of those that were printed, or we can email them to you. So let myself or one of the staff know, and we will get you those final numbers if you want. I will say up front, I got this email from Mark, who is traveling right now, but he sent me a text message and said the final audit is done, the final numbers are complete, and they're about $210 better than what's on here. So if you're worried about that $210, it's to the positive, and I honestly don't know what category that fell in. It's probably spread amongst a bunch of different things. So here we go. So some of the things, I'm just going to start with what's up here. And the bottom line is what we budgeted was for a $58,000 deficit this year. And that's what we voted last year. So you probably remember the discussion. We're doing another year of deficit budgeting. We adjusted our giving projections. We tried to figure out the expenses, and we were coming up about $58K short. In reality, at the end of the year, we have come out with about a $12,000 operating surplus, which means that we made up that $58K and added an additional $12K over that. So we're actually at $70,000 above what we anticipated for the year, which is fantastic. This is a massive answer to prayer. This is a note to the generosity of many of you in this room who have shared in this. This is a recognition of God's provision in the life in this season for City Church in helping bring us to that point. And I want to especially recognize this is a lot of work and careful, intentional, thought-out spending and use of resources on behalf of our staff. They work really hard to keep us within what God has provided, and they did a great job this year. So this is our second surplus since 2020, and the second year in a row that we've done that. So last year, if you remember, for 23-24, we had a deficit budget planned, and we came out with a slight surplus, which was amazing. Again, this year, deficit planned, and we came out again with a surplus. So praise the Lord for that. I'm going to move to some of the numbers here. Oh, before I get into the numbers, because you have the numbers in your booklet here on page 20. So how did we get there? First of all, we had really strong giving and investment. So we came in at about $27,000 over what we had budgeted for giving. That's always a hard number to figure out. Mark and Amy and I and the board sit and wrestle over that because it's impossible to predict who's going to be here, what you're going to give. We have some big gifts that come in. Are they going to be repeated? You never know. We have steady giving, and somebody loses a job, they might have to drop out. Somebody gets a new job. So it's a real moving target. So there's a whole algorithm that it lives in Mark Gorham's brain, and he wrestles with this stuff and comes out and says, I think this is about the best estimate that we can give. So this last year, we ended up, giving came in $27K above what we anticipated, plus Mark guides our investments, and the investment interest came out about $5K over. So that's $32,000 that we gained in revenue this year that we were not anticipating. In addition, like I said, there was an underspend of $38,000 on behalf of the staff and just some things that worked out that in our, I don't want to say in our favor, numerically in our favor. Some of them were very hard. There were some underspends that were like prying our fingers off of things, saying, okay, we can't do it this year, or staff members who left, and so we're not paying them a salary, and we're instead bringing people in piecemeal and stuff. So the net result is we underspent by $38,000. Combine those, that gives us our $70,000 variance there. And so the next question then, if we are $12K over what we anticipated for the budget, what are we going to do with that $12,000? And the board has made the decision that that $12K needs to be moved into the facility fund because there are a number of expenses and needs that this beautiful building has. And as we're trying to be a presence here in the South Minneapolis neighborhood, it's important that we keep this building functioning and that we keep working on that. Amy's actually going to spend some time sharing with us an update on the building stuff, so you'll hear more about that in a few minutes here. So, in summary, my encouragement is we celebrate God's gracious provision and your generous giving. Thank you so much to you all and to God for carrying us to this point. It literally, the last few years, we have sat around a table and gone, oh, how are we going to bridge this gap? Fortunately, through good planning, through good investment, and God's graciousness, over the first 12 years of our life, 15 years of our life, we had surplus built up that we were able to work with. But it really is just a celebration for us that we're here. We are moving in a good direction, and we want to see that continue. We want to continue to see the generosity, the buy-in. What generosity says to me is people are excited about City Church, that people are saying, wow, this is a ministry and a mission and a presence that I want to get behind, not just being here, not just becoming a member or supporting the block parties, but actually saying, I'm going to tangibly commit to being a part of this community. So thank you for that. So now we're going to move into the budget for this next year. And so first of all, what I want to say, I'm actually going to come over here really quick. I'm going to put Amy on the spot. So Amy, what kind of budget are we presenting this year? We're presenting a balanced budget for the first time since 2021. The last 4 years, I have had to stand, or Carrie has had to stand in front of you and explain why we're bringing another deficit budget. And we are incredibly grateful and just excited to stand in front of you today and say, because of all of this, we feel like we can present a balanced budget for your consideration this year. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Now, having said that, the other shoe is coming down. Part of the way we get here is by making some really hard decisions about our budgeting categories. There are some places that we've had to adjust numbers, and you'll see that in a moment, that we are grieving a little bit. I think Amy would probably agree with that we've kind of said, okay, we're tightening the belt a little bit in some places to get to a zero budget. The bottom line is we are presenting a budget of $666,000 this year and anticipating that that will equal our expenses across the year. So I'm going to call out a couple of notes. How did we arrive at this balanced versus a deficit budget? So first of all, we reduced we adjusted the anticipated giving. Again, Mark has this process he goes through and trying to figure out, we had some really generous, gracious, large gifts in 2025. They're unpredictable, so we've adjusted for that. What if we don't get those this year? What if we get something less? What if we get something more? So we've adjusted the giving, anticipating those kinds of things. We are adjusting down our interest earnings. As interest is reduced and as our working capital is reduced, because that's the money that sits in the bank or sits in the investments, that we recognize we have less to work with. So we anticipate a little lower in the giving and the interest earnings category there. We have filled the Director of Operations with Tamara. Whoop, whoop. And she's been amazing. She's just finishing her first year with us. And literally this morning as we're doing this, she's like, okay, how can we get all this stuff done for today's meeting? So a lot of this goes back to Tamara. That staff vacancy created, again, a change in our personnel budget, in our kind of operating piece there. And this is the one that we're I think really challenged with, is that we have decreased the outreach budget. So we tithe a certain amount of all the money that comes in to go back out into intentional ministry and mission on behalf of City Church. Last year we had bumped that up to 12%, and that includes 2% of that is the Christmas giving that we do every year. So we've decreased it from 12% back down to 10%. And our heart and goal is still to get that back up into that 12% range. That's where we want to press toward. But we recognize that in order to get the budget to work out, that we had to be a little more conservative this year on that. Now, in the past, historically, we've seen Christmas giving exceed the goals that we've set. We've seen some things come in generously, so who knows what will come in this year. But to get to those balanced numbers, we've had to make that reduction there. Let me see here. I'm just going to check my notes to make sure that I'm hitting the things I wanted to. Particularly since Mark is traveling this year, Amy and I have been doing lots of homework to make sure that we're ready to answer questions when the time comes. Yeah, I think that's a great place to go. So I want to talk just a little bit. Last year we introduced this pie chart, which hopefully was helpful. Basically, this takes all of that big chunk of extra money. We've talked about having like $800,000 of money available to, or assets available to City Church. This doesn't include the building. This is just the actual funds that we work with. And we've divided that up into 4 kind of buckets, or as the more technical term, it's our working capital. So this is the money that we have available to keep things going. So of the money that we have, this $800,000 total working capital, there's about $350,000 in the facility fund. That sounds like a large number, but that really is both anticipated work that needs to happen in the facility, which Amy and Tamara will speak to later, as well as a built-in risk category. So that's taking into account if we had a sudden issue that we needed, the boiler goes out next week, we've got to get on that and get it fixed. We've got stuff in reserve to do that. And hopefully that reflects some of your household budgeting as well. Like you keep some in reserve in case something happens, then you don't have to panic about it so much. So that $350 is for planned facility work as well as risk management and looking forward to ongoing years of continued work on the facilities here. The ministries fund really reflects money that has been earmarked and set aside for specific ministries. And that includes things that we've committed to as a community to invest in ministry partners, including the money that we voted back in 2021 for the Jonathan House Project, which is about $81K, and then there's another $13,000 or so in earmarked ministry funds to go out. So that's that green category. The blue category is the operations and risk fund, and this is kind of the money we use on a monthly basis to keep our ministry going, plus that risk category. So we've got kind of risk built into the facility, but we also have risk built into the operations fund. And that would be if we had another pandemic and we had to close down the church and giving trends shifted dramatically, we want to make sure we have enough in the bank to be able to adapt to those. So again, all part of Mark's algorithms, it's all part of Mark's, and this is where Mark really shines, is risk analysis. Like, that's his career, has been in risk analysis and insurance stuff. So he was able to sit down over the years and kind of say, these are the risks, these are things. Now the interesting thing is those risks begin to decrease as the health of the church and the facility increases. So when we replace the roof on the church, then that risk of the roof going out, having a sudden problem with it, shrinks drastically. So we can move some of those risk funds out, say we don't have to hold on to that because the roof is good. Or if we had to replace a boiler, then you don't really have to plan to replace a boiler for a bunch more years. So the risk fund is kind of squidgy a little bit. I'm pretty sure that's the technical term. And then the yellow fund is the undesignated. And the risk on undesignated is that we think of it as a slush fund that we get to use. Like, hey, we've got $134,000. That's great. What are we going to do with it? And the reality of the undesignated fund is that this is money that we have to kind of shepherd and spend in accordance with our vision, our mission, with the ministry outcomes. So this is where we go if we say, hey, we had a vision meeting and we decided we want to do this really cool project to bless our community, and this is what it's going to cost, and it's not built into the budget. Comes back to the board and we say, can we allocate some of that undesignated fund to be able to drive this forward? Can we use some of the undesignated fund in strategic ways to help build the body or invest in our community? So the undesignated fund just means it doesn't have a name on it, but it does not mean that it's just sitting there money that we can kind of spend willy-nilly. So that again, hopefully reflects some of your own experience with budgeting for your home and household. Let's see here, what's the next? So the facility fund, are you going to talk about this, Amy, or? No. Okay, great. So why is the facility fund balanced as large as it is, $350,000? There have been significant gifts to the facility fund, about $97,000 in the last year, of people saying, I want to give this special gift specifically to invest in this facility, in this building, in our property and grounds, which is an amazing and beautiful gift to us because we do have expenses coming up. So a big part of it, and that's money that's been labeled, we can't spend that anywhere else because somebody said, this is why I'm giving it, is for this purpose. The board has designated an additional $50,000 from those undesignated funds into facility because we have big projects that we're working on and we anticipate big needs in the year ahead. So we're trying to increase our capacity for caring for the facility. We had large expenses in the last year, about close to $60,000, $58,000, including, I don't know if any of you knew, but we redid the canopy roof. So the big city church where you walk in the front here was kind of a mess. If you want to know just how much of a mess it was, you can talk to Jack afterwards. But it was like pouring water the wrong direction, and I mean just all kinds of craziness. So they rebuilt the whole roofing structure on that, put a new membrane over it, redid the whole thing to the tune of about $58,000. Well, the roof wasn't 58; it was more like 40 or something. But these projects at a commercial level are not inexpensive, so it's different than putting a new roof on my house, which is also not inexpensive. We are anticipating a rebuild, a refresh of the elementary classrooms downstairs. That will be something Amy talks about. That project is in the $125,000 to $140,000 range, so we're anticipating that. And then we are trying to always keep about a $200,000 balance in that. So after we spend all this money this next year, up to $150,000-ish, we still want to remain at the $200,000 level in that account. So that's kind of why we've set that at $349,000 this year. So that was a lot of information. Fairly quickly, I am going to make a motion to approve this budget and then I'm going to give you a few minutes to ask questions about it. All right? So the motion is to approve the 2025-26 annual budget as presented in the annual meeting report. Do I have a second? Oh, Megan. Oh, that's awesome. Megan's back there like headlocking Elliot so he couldn't get that second. Okay, so we have a motion, we have a second. This is an opportunity to ask questions. So I've got some people with microphones again. Do we have any questions? Mary Krakow.
I know we have lots of things on the docket for repair, et cetera, but what is the status at the board level of potential for an elevator added to this building?
Excellent question. So Mary is, again, bringing up the question of the elevator. We talked about it a little bit last year. I am going to table that comment briefly because that's going to be a big part of Amy's presentation, but I will say that it has been an active conversation at the board level and among our facilities team, and we've started doing some kind of pre-work and talking to architects and doing different things to just start exploring what is it going to take to make that happen. So Amy will share more about that in detail, but it has been an active conversation over the last year, and especially into building out this budget. So I will say, because this is the budgeting part, we do not have budgeted this year to build a new elevator. But the budget is considering those broader expenses, because the elevator gets to be a huge project. It's far more than, it's probably our annual budget altogether. So it is built in to continue that conversation and to continue doing the foundational work on it, but we will not come out in 2026 probably with a new elevator in the next year. So I don't know if that gets more directly to Mary's question. But. As soon as we pass this, we'll say way more about that. Yeah. Stay tuned. Yes. Matt Witt.
Can you guys hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, I had a comment and then a question. The first one was, I'm glad that we hit on the 38,000 surplus, specifically with, because we didn't spend money on ministers and things like that. And I think, like, to put a face to that, it was Amy grinding for like 6 months without a lot of ministry support. So just want to like make sure that, and the rest of the team.
Still going to go out to lunch, but I was pastoral oversight. Tamara Fatoy was administrative, and Alex was our sound. So it was a trifecta who were playing worship pastor for 8 months.
Thank you to all of you for that. The second question I had pertains more to the small group that I lead in terms of the budget. I know that there's some projects that we're looking at doing, and our group has been talking about a little bit like ways that maybe like 1 week out of the month, instead of doing Bible study, maybe we come and we work on a project here. So are there, like, I know that commercial construction is very expensive, but are there opportunities for Joe Schmoes like us to come and build? I know I met quickly I talked quickly to Jack for 3 minutes in the parking lot, but maybe there's like, I don't know if there's ways that we could save money that way too, but
That's
some
great.
of us people that are rookies might be able to.
That's great. Thank you.
Just made Jack Frangipane today, because he is always looking to save money. We just need people.
Yeah.
Yes, keep talking to Jack, and we'll figure that out. That would be amazing. God bless you.
Yeah. Definitely opportunities. And some of the projects we have planned, built-in volunteer hours. So all the Joe Schmoes and Josephine Schmoes can talk to Jack Schmo, and we'll get it all going here. Other questions? Yeah, Eric. Oh, there we go.
Mine's more of a comment. 25, I just want to say, if it's an individual person or multiple people for the facility fund, you know, we really appreciate everybody giving to ministry giving, but what a big gift for the facility fund. I think round of applause to whoever that was, because that's a big deal.
Yeah.
That's it.
Thanks, Eric. Yeah, it is a huge blessing. Yeah, you said it well. Other questions or comments on the budget? We have a motion on the floor. Okay. Well, we've got some more things to get through, so as there are no more questions pressing, I'll bring it to a vote. All those in favor of approving the 25-26 annual budget as presented in the annual meeting report, say aye. All opposed? Nay. And the motion carries. Fantastic. So Amy's going to come up and move us forward.
I'm moving us forward because Mary's question is perfect. It's the right question. So why is this facility you saw in the agenda for today a facility update in this meeting? And I just want to say why this update. So here's what we're going to talk about. Why did we, you gave me the clicker. Why are we doing this update? What was the work done in the past year? What work do we anticipate in the coming year? And what's your part? Okay? So that's what I'm going to try to run through in 10 minutes with Tamara. The first is, why are we even talking about this? Because last year at the annual meeting, there was a question raised about accessibility. And we did a lot of work in the last year. And so we just want to give you some information about the work we've done without answering all your questions. I know that part is not fun. But we're in process here, and this is a big deal. I want you to have Tamara's email right here so that she is our point person for what she's going to talk about. So if you have further questions, you can talk with her, but I'm giving it over to her. Do you want me to click? Do you want me to fast? Okay. All right. So Tamara's going to talk about the work that was done this past year.
So good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be able to stand before you today and talk about our beautiful building that God has entrusted to us. And we're called to be good stewards of it. And that means sometimes we're volunteering or we're doing maintenance projects, refreshing space. Do I need to do something different? And a lot of times it's just supporting these efforts financially as we're able. So what's been happening this past year? I'm happy to say that we started a facility stewardship team. And they've been doing a lot of work over the past 9 months. We've been busy caring for this amazing building, addressing deferred maintenance, and beginning to plan for the future. Some of that great work has been highlighted in the annual report, and I really want to say thanks to Jack, because he has really been the person behind the scenes doing all these wonderful things. But more specifically, we established a facility stewardship team. And that the members include myself, Jack, Mark, Alex, and then we consulted with Cindy Anderson and Shelley Grueling just in some of the work that we're doing. We created a charter so that we would know what we're working towards and the projects that we should invest in over the next 3 to 5 years. And those would be projects that would restore our space and enhance our space. So our initial step was to create a facility master plan. And this is where Jack was very instrumental again. We partnered with a consultant who manages the facilities at St. Kate's University, and she came through and did an amazing job of helping us understand what it takes to maintain this building and where we should budget appropriately for the future. So out of that, we had both short and long-term needs, and Jack spearheaded that.
Maybe.
No, I'm still here.
Okay.
I think. Maybe not. There we go. But the good news is our building is solid and it's well maintained. So we have a very, very good structure here. The challenge is, like any homeowner, light bulbs need to be changed. Kind of Jack loves that task. We have to change batteries. We have to do landscaping, different things like that. But this really led us, looking at all this work, led us to looking at a phased approach to the current work. So we have immediate needs and we have long-term needs. So those immediate needs include refreshing and enhancing our lower level classroom and hallway. So what does that mean? Well, for a number of years, we have not even updated that lower level. So we maybe did some carpet, did some things like that, but that it's needing a refresh. Additionally, with our Invest in the Next Gen, we really thought that we need to say what would make this a place where kids want to come and participate. And so while the relationships are important, we really need to have a welcoming, safe, and fun environment. That really does matter. So more will be said about that later, but we will be starting on a refresh and a remodel in January, and we're really excited to see where that's going to go. Long term, though, and in response to Mary's question, we started exploring the possibilities for an elevator and what that could mean for accessibility in the future use of our space. So to that end, we partnered with an architect, and after meeting with several firms, we selected an architect that specializes in renovations. She not only helped us with our immediate focus area of remodeling the lower level, but she also helped us do an early design exploration for the elevator. So again, the architect created some exciting ideas for refreshing the lower level, and we're happy to be moving forward with that. But together with that architect and a general contractor, we did begin the pre-design study to explore where the elevator could possibly be. So we've ruled out some options, which was really important, and we've narrowed in on a direction that really seems promising. But what we didn't want to waste money. So we didn't want to do a lower level refresh if the elevator was going to be there. So we really had to have a clear vision of where the elevator might end up being, and that helped us figure out where we could start the refresh and the remodel work. So we have a vision for an elevator. We have some pre-designs that are really cool and fun to look at, but it's not just about the elevator. It's about being accessible, it's about safety, it's about security, it's about modernizing things, and it's even making the possibility that we can efficiently and with a cost create a space that welcomes children, youth, and guests and brings them into our community with a safe environment. So we're encouraged by our project and we're excited for the next steps. And now Amy's going to finish us out here with the rest of this.
But do give that team a round of applause, please. They've been awesome. They've worked hard this last year. Okay, so what can you expect this next year? And let me just start there. Number one, the board approved this project of the elementary classroom and hallway refresh. That'll start in January. As Tamara just said, part of why we started there was not only our objective last year of invest in next gen, and because we haven't touched that space since we purchased this building, but because we ruled out the elevator, if God allows one to come and you all say, yes, I will give money to that, will not be out that east hallway. We've ruled out a couple of places it won't be, so it was easy to invest in that area. The next thing we are committing to you is that the leadership, both board and staff, are asking questions about how much to invest in the building. So everybody says, well, yes, of course we want that. And you finally put a price tag to it. You have to really make some decisions and priorities. So we are having conversations at the board level of how much has God called us to this location, to this building. What does that look like? How much is wise to invest in? We will be seeking your input for that. We are basically at the feasibility stage, which does take some time, of what that would look like for the reasons Tamara just said, because it isn't just you purchase an elevator and insert it into your space. It changes your space. So it changes your flow. It changes the space city kids have or students have or our communal gathering space or all of that. So there's a lot of things to think about there. And I just want to say, so the board's going to keep you informed, and we will make this decision together because it will require all of us. So no one is going to foist this on you. We're discerning, is this what God wants? We're excited about it, but it will mean some sacrifice. It will mean some commitment, and whatever number comes out of what it ends up being, if we decide to go that route, I just want to remind people, as Jack said when we were planning this, there are a lot of sources of revenue for this kind of thing. And I do believe that if this is where God wants us to, how he wants us to be a light of inviting all people into the transforming grace of Jesus, he will provide that. He owns a cattle on 1,000 hills, right? I had a mentor who used to say, God has enough money in the world, he just has to get it in the right hands. And amen to that. And there's other sources of revenue that are possibilities, including favorable interest rates from our denomination, including grants for accessibility, including a community around us that is saying, we want you. We are for this face-to-face communal, let's fight the loneliness epidemic thing that you all are doing with intergenerational ministry. So, okay, so what am I asking of you? Well, there's three things, and really all of these, I'm asking all of these things of all of you, just in different ways, how you do it. So number one, would you be praying for wisdom and discernment as we make these decisions and as we explore this possibility? It's really exciting. It's also a big deal. So we just want to make sure we're doing that under God's leading. We do invite you to serve with your skills. I'm so excited to hear about this men's group that wants to help. Tamara will be asking people to, not even people who have skills like me, to just throw paint on a wall. That I could do. But there are also bigger projects that Jack would love to have people to work with him. He cannot do this work alone. And so that would be great. There may be some of you who are like good at grant writing, or you have a certain contract skill. Contact Tamara and Jack and let them know. The other thing you can do is dream about these possibilities. Think about when you walk in and when you drop your kids off, like think about the space. And when you go to drop off your kids at daycare or preschool or go to some other church, like think about the space and think about what's possible. And then give us your input when you're invited into that. There will also be financial ways we're asking for you. And here, I want to just be clear about what our needs are. So first of all, it's hard to say, or at least for me, you can't really say, let's do an elevator when you've had 4 or 5 years of a deficit budget. You got to first have a balanced budget, right? So that's the first step. Thank God we hit that. But I will say, over the next 3 years, we'd like to see an increase in general giving by 50 to 60,000 over the next 3 years, and here's why. One, and Tim mentioned this, and I didn't know Jack was going to be here. I would have planned something special for you. But one of the reasons we have been able to do that is not just some of us taking the toll on staff. It is Jack Frangipani, who serves as our volunteer facility person for this church. Okay, so Tamara oversees finances or facilities, but Jack is the guy who gives a lot of time. Just look at the grass out front. Yes. 4 years. You guys, he's starting his 4th year as a volunteer. Do you understand? That's insane. People are like, how, you have a volunteer person? This is insane and also not sustainable. So we are so thankful to Jack. And we're also saying, man, that cannot be long-term. We've got to find a way to bring up our operating budget so that we can support someone part-time to look after this building. So Jack, we do thank you, and you have made it possible. And yes, we cannot thank Jack Frangipani enough, so please. Tim's point, we want to see outreach go back again to 12%, not 10%. There's a lot of ways to count it, and anyways, but that's a goal we have. There may be other, if one of the ministries we're thinking about doing for neighborhood impact requires a staff member who's part-time, that would be great to have the opportunity to do that. But we have to make sure we're functioning well before we look at these other things. Second, facility. Here's I have to look at my notes too. To Tim's point, the building doesn't need a lot of work. It is in a good shape, as Tamara said, but like any homeowner knows, there's always those things coming down the pike. So what I want to say is we actually would like to see in addition to the operating fund increase, we'd like to see the facility fund increase. And you can do that 3 ways. Here's the 3 ways. 1, you can always give to the general fund, because anytime there's a surplus, that will go to facility, and it does give us the most flexibility. 2, you can give to the facility fund, and it can be a large gift. It can be $50,000, $100,000, whatever. So this last year was amazing, but actually sort of providentially, it showed us the way we need to go in terms of we would like to see over the next 4 to 5 years, $100,000 in facility fund for these projects that are coming. It's not dire. You've seen our reserves. We have, the sky is not falling. But a roof, an HVAC system, a boiler will eventually need replacement in the next 3 to 5 years. So we'd like to see this facility fund built up to $100,000 each one of those years, so that we don't have to drain reserves for those big projects. People can give small monthly gifts to the facility fund. We actually would like to, right now we have about $15,000 that comes in every year to facility fund. We'd like to see that 50 to replenish, so that even when, something big happens, there's a constant ongoing. Those are the things we'd like to see happen. And then I do want to put that out there, that we can think about an elevator and an addition, and that's exciting. And I say that because there are people who are looking to give to good causes. And a church that is meeting and trying to see people become like Jesus and inviting others into the transforming grace of Jesus is a good cause. And so if you know people, or you are interested even in your own estate planning or future stuff, as you think in the next 2 years, I want people to be thinking about there may be an elevator/addition project coming down the pike, and you can begin thinking about that now. But we want to, the big picture, we want to see all of these things happening, because it is not wise to invest only in addition when we do not have these other things straight. So, while we're talking about giving, here you go. There's a QR code if you're interested. I'm a bill pay girl. I thought I was ACH, but actually I'm automatic bill. It's the first bill of the month, and that's a joy to invest in what City Church is doing. There's a lot of ways you can do that, and it is greatly appreciated. And as we don't say enough, but we do really believe that this is part of our financial discipleship to Jesus. And that this is not something he wants from us, this is something he wants for us, that we get to do together. So I invite you into that. If you don't have a habit yet of giving to City Church and it is your church home, I want to invite you to consider that, and to consider how you may play your part in how God is leading us now. Okay, that's it for facility update. Do I have time for questions, or do we release people? I'm going to give it back to you. I'm going to give you that.
All right. I have one more quick announcement, and then we're going to do a pre-release, and then we're going to do some Q&A, and then we're going to do a final release. Got me? Okay. So the board election results, you all voted. Our team tallied the votes. They brought me the secret ballot. I opened the gold envelope, and everyone was elected. Yeah. Whew. All right. I know there was bated breath on that, because some of those folks, I don't know. Okay. So thanks to our ballot counters who are working back there on that. So what I want to do is a pre-release. I realize that we're a few minutes over, so our child care folks are looking at their clocks and wrangling your children and saying, how much longer is Tim going to talk? So if you have kiddos and you feel like I really need to get down there and get them, feel free to head out and do that. No problem. If you have kiddos and you feel like I really don't want to go get them yet, I will leave that between you and God and the children's ministry team. And so now I'm going to invite Pastor Amy to come back up, and what we're going to do is just spend a few minutes inviting any questions, having some dialogue. If you need to go, that's fine. We understand. This is being recorded, so if you want to come back and watch the Q&A time, you're certainly welcome to. So at this point, I'd love to just open up opportunities for people to ask those questions that maybe hadn't been answered to this point.
And while there is that
Stump the
awkward
panel.
moment of who is going to write the first question, you got an index card and a pen, hopefully on the way in, and there's more at the back. One of the new things we're trying to do is sometimes only the really extroverted person is able to say something. We want to hear from everybody. If you have a comment or a question you want us to answer, write it, put it on this index card. Megan will collect it in a basket, and then we as a board will try to answer those in the next 2 weeks and put it back out to you in a newsletter or a email, because we just want to keep that communication dialogue both ways. And I know it's limited in the time we have, so make use of that, please.
Yep. All right. So, yes, Jonathan, I think there's a microphone there.
This is maybe somewhere between a question and a comment, but if there's a goal of trying to get increasing giving, is there a point to be made if people have automated transfers that are either from a bank account versus a credit card, is it more beneficial to the church if it's not a credit card to avoid processing fees?
That is a
And
great
is that a way
question.
to make better use of the money that is
Yeah, I
given?
love that. Tamara.
Yep, so, credit cards and ACH actually have charges.
Hey, Spencer, could you
included.
get her a microphone?
So the preference is that you use bill pay or send a check, that we don't incur fees.
Okay.
But of course, the real preference is just give, right? However it works. If that's going to impede you from giving, just give. But if you want it, make it go further. The one thing I'll say about credit cards that drives us nuts, when your card changes and the expiration changes, please update us, because otherwise it gets dropped and you don't even know. And yeah, I want to say thank you to the board and to you, Tim, for your work. Yeah, I want to say thank you to the board and to you, Tim, for your work in organizing this too. We don't take for granted that you're here with us. So Tim gives a lot of time behind the scenes. So, Lord, we do give you thanks. We are very confident that you are the head of your church, and you are the head of this church, and you are leading and guiding, and you are at work, and we want to follow. We want to be your people here in this place that you have put us, and so we ask for your wisdom, we ask for your encouragement, we ask for your direction, we ask for your provision. And we pray that we would see immeasurably more than all we could ask or imagine over this next year, of embodying your love to our neighborhood, of creative ways of doing that, of thinking about how you have called us here long term, and even financial provision, which seems insane to be asking for the amount we are. But you are above all. And you are overall. And so we look to you, and we want to be a church that reflects your glory and your love here in this place. So may it be so. And we thank you for this time together in Jesus' name. Amen. Thank you all.
For the end of our meeting, I'm going to make a motion to close the 2025 City Church annual meeting. Do I have a second? Second.
Wow. Phil was on it.